JANM no Chichi by Joji Nozawa. 4 months passed. Spring had reached even the western mountains, and the employers had returned from their vacation on the Pacific coast. It happened in the afternoon at the end of a busy week. A newspaper reporter came to the house at the very moment Mr. Saiki received the War Department notice of Saburo's death in combat. Lost in grief, Mr. Saiki stood in front of the staff photographer. Mr. Saiki felt as if everything had gone dark before his eyes. He felt like cursing all that was left in this world. What have I done to deserve such misfortune? How can I bear the weight of these terrible sacrifices? He felt like doubting the existence of the God he had believed in for so many years. His employer had extended him the kindness of allowing him to take the next day off, but in the morning, Mr. Saiki went down to the kitchen to at least get the coffee started. As the coffee was brewing, the employer entered with a smile on his face. He said nothing as he handed Mr. Saiki the newspaper. Printed in the paper was an article about his 3 sons' death, accompanied by a 4-by-6-inch portrait of Mr. Saiki. The article included his remarks with a quote, "When I think about how my 3 sons have died for America, I think of how content they are now in heaven. When I think this, I do not feel sadness, but rather a far greater feeling of honorable happiness." These were the words that Mr. Saiki had said to the journalist the day before. But reading them now, he wanted to vomit. These people had cursed him and stomped on him, taking all that he treasured, stripped him and left him naked, and still he was trying to flatter them. He could no longer stand the sight of himself. In the back of his mind, he saw the triumphant, laughing faces of all the people in camp who had called him soft and weak. These people's faces became the faces of everyone in camp, even his closest friends, his family. Everyone was laughing at him. Mr. Saiki, his blood boiling, wanted to defy them, to shout at them, to call them damn fools. But those words just turned back upon him, expressions of his own self-loathing. Why didn't he just bash his head against the wall? He wanted to beat himself senseless. He looked at the picture of himself in the newspaper and saw a perfect specimen of village idiot. Like tongues of flames, violent anger flickered, caught and burst within him. Mr. Saiki did not care that his employer was standing next to him. He crushed the paper into a crumpled ball, slammed it down into the waste paper basket in the corner, then stomped in the basket, smashing it with all his might. 2 weeks later, the Saikis were no longer in the house. Whether the employer fired them or they left on their own accord, I do not know. Sometime after, a Mexican woman stood on the balcony, admiring the magnificent vista of Lake Michigan. All races are welcome to join America's inclusive embrace, to fall in love with her mysterious charms.
The second major of this action